Hey guys, this is AI Gaming 1776, and we're playing Ghost Recon Wildlands with a GTX 980 Ti from NVIDIA. We're playing at 1440p, and we're going to try to figure out what the best settings are. And I think that the best settings might be different for different people. If the game stutters for you and you have very bad performance problems when you try to play it at 1440p, I think one set of settings is going to work better for you. And if the game does not give you stuttering problems and the game plays smoothly for you, then you can have some different choices. All right, so it's a little bit complex, and I apologize for that, but that's just kind of the state of how things are. Now, really quickly, let me give you guys some context. I've posted multiple 1440p videos showing how this game plays with 3 different GTX 1070s and a 1080 Ti at 1440p, and I've shown that with 4 different CPU and RAM configurations. All right. Now, I say all that to say the game has played incredibly well for me. It's played as smoothly as what you see here. See how this is nice and smooth and pretty? That's what it's done for me on my hardware with the 1070s and the 1080 Ti. Now, I've looked on the internet and I found out that not everybody has that experience. And again, we'll go on to that. But I'm giving you that context because last night, you see, on my GTX 1070 video, so many people were telling me that the game stutters for them incessantly on their Pascal systems, their GTX 1070s, their 1080 Ti's, things of that nature. And they said they couldn't use my settings. They had to use a different set of settings, which again, I'm going to show you those in a minute too. I'm going to show you a bunch of stuff in this video. But the game played perfectly for me on 4 different systems. So I finally put in a 980 Ti. And last night, this 980 Ti was stuttering very badly. All right. Now this island right here, this is kind of like a control thing to use for testing my settings, because no matter what hardware I use, this island usually does pretty well. You see, we've had a good frame rate this whole time. But let's go to a safe house over here. And you'll see at this safe house over here, the frame rate's actually going to go down now. And when I went here last night with the 980 Ti, I was not recording it. I was just testing it on my own time. And when I went here last night, the frame rate was wretched. Now keep in mind, we're recording with, look at that, 41 FPS already. Yeah, so we're recording with shadow play. And 41 FPS, that's already lower than what these settings, which I haven't shown you the settings yet, but I will. That 41 FPS is already lower than what we would have seen with the GTX 1070 in the video I posted last night. It did go as low as 41 and even lower than that a couple times, but most of the time it was better. I say that, but then like there was these dudes having a conversation over here, and yes, it did go down to 44 frames per second when I lined up the camera on them. Which with this 980 Ti, we're not even going down that low when I line up the camera. Apples to apples comparisons between 2 different graphics cards, even with the same settings, are not always perfect. Although now we're at 40, 41, 42, 43. We're at 40 now. But yeah, basically this is a little bit worse than what I was showing you with the 1070 last night. Okay, we're using a 980 Ti in this video. It's an EVGA classified edition of the card. It is overclocked. You can see in the upper right hand corner the boost clock is only at 1452. It's a strange card. Sometimes I can get it to 1470, even like 1486, and it'll be stable, and sometimes not. It kind of depends on the game. Now I think I could do a little bit better than 1452 if I'm honest in this game, but I just got tired of trying to dial it in. It was crashing at 1465. We're currently at 1452. So somewhere between 1452 and 1465, we could do a little bit better on that boost speed. But honestly, this is where we're at for now. So anyway, as you can see, the frame rate is not so great right now. It is in the 40s. This is a little bit worse than what we saw with the GTX 1070. Now, the 1070 last night did go into the 40s. But, oh, there we go. Now we're in the 30s. I was getting ready. This is the thing I was going to try to explain to you throughout the course of this video. Is last night, my 980 Ti played horribly. The frame rate was erratic. It kept going up and down. mostly down. It stuttered a lot. The game was just outright unplayable. And then today, while I've been testing the game, it's been just fine. Now, again, we're using shadow play as I talk to you, and that will affect performance. But even without shadow play last night, my 980 Ti was playing like a dog. So really, your results may vary. I've already asked some people on Steam how the game is playing for them, and one person hit me back and said they're using a 980 Ti, and they're playing at the Ultra preset, and they're getting 30 to 60 FPS, which is probably about right, because we are almost at the Ultra preset here. As you can see, this is not the smoothest. There's probably some frame pacing issues going on. This isn't ideal. To be honest with you, I'm not 1,000,000% sure what the absolute perfect settings are for a 980 Ti. Normally, I would feel pretty confident in that. The thing is, the game has been inconsistent. So this is what I'm going to do in this video. I'm going to show you the settings where even if the game is stuttering for you and playing badly, the game should smooth out and do pretty well. I'll show you those settings second. First, I'm going to show you the settings where if the game's already playing well for you, what you could play at, all right? So you've seen how this has been performing, right? Using shadow play, it's in the 40s and 50s. It'd be more in the low 50s when I'm not using shadow play, when it plays well. But again, sometimes these exact same settings play like garbage. They played very poorly last night. There is inconsistency. So if the game doesn't play poorly for you, you can play in this neighborhood, all right? SMAA for the anti-aliasing, SSBC for the ambient occlusion, draw distance at very high, level of detail very high, texture quality ultra, anisotropic filtering 16, shadow quality very high, terrain quality ultra, vegetation quality ultra, turf effects off, motion blur off. You can have that on if you want. It's a personal choice. Iron sights depth of field on, high quality depth of field on, bloom on, God rays on, subsurface scattering on, lens flare on, long range shadows on. All right, now these are the settings that I use when playing with the 1070, and it plays beautifully. I use even higher settings than this with the 1080 Ti. But again, some people have had trouble even with the 1080 Ti. So you see, this is not ideal. I just saw a little bit of not quite stuttering, but some jittering. That looked like a stutter. So this isn't great. But like I said, you can probably, if the game is not a train fire for you with your 980 Ti, you can probably play in the neighborhood of the settings that I just showed you. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do anti-aliasing. I'm going to take it from SMAA down to temporal AA, and then shadow quality from very high to high. And this might just smooth it out for us. That it might. This may be the way to go. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to say something that's a little bit blasphemous, almost crazy even. I don't know if the ultra textures are necessary with the 980 Ti, because hear me out on this. I compare a lot of different hardware, do a lot of A/B testing. With the 1070, I can really feel the ultra textures working. Like I can look at them and I can see the richness and I can see the beauty. But with the 980 Ti, I haven't really noticed it as much. So maybe we could ditch the ultra textures, which if you go to the very high preset, which we're going to have to go to the very high preset in a moment anyway, the very high preset will ditch those ultra textures. See, that's the thing. If the game won't play well for you, if it just keeps stuttering for you and it keeps performing badly for you, then you're going to have to go to the very high preset probably and go to borderless window mode and give yourself a 60 frame per second cap. Yeah, this is okay. See, with the GTX 1070, and look, I'm not a fanboy either way, right? Like, I'm not biased. I'm just explaining to you what I objectively see. I own the 980 Ti. Why would I want it to perform worse? I don't. I'm just objectively explaining to you what I see. And as a matter of fact, last year I made some videos where I thought my 980 Ti played some of my games better than my 1070s, right? So, again, I just call it like I see it. It's case by case. Anyway, it's played better with the 1070 for me, and maybe that's a driver support thing, and maybe that's NVIDIA's fault. I don't know. Like the Some people have a theory that there's planned obsolescence with the drivers, where the older cards all of a sudden mysteriously perform worse. See, that's kind of jittery, and that we went down to like 43. Yeah, so you could try to play with settings like these, what I'm showing you, but you might still be better off going to what the guy said to do with the 1070. Now, I didn't have to do this with the 1070, but some people have. So you go to borderless window, and you set a frame rate limit to 60. Hopefully we're still recording. All right. So we've gone to borderless window, frame rate limit 60. Let me see what that does alone before I go to the very high preset. See if this makes any difference. It seems a little better, but I've only been playing for 8 seconds. I'm trying to soak it in. I'm trying to see what I think. This is kind of live testing, to be honest, a little bit. Yeah, it's still a little jittery. Alright, so let's try. Because last night, when it was playing like a train fire, and then I switched it over to the very high preset, as has been suggested by the 1070 users, it magically kind of fixed it. It still, even without Shadowplay though, did not keep 60 FPS. It was interesting. You see, my 980 Ti's, quit to main menu. My 980 Ti's, in all honesty, I've got 2 of them. They used to hang with my 1070s. There would be some games where the 1070 was better, some games where the 980 Ti was better, but most of the time there was a certain amount of parity. Like they'd both be fluctuating, and they'd usually be within 2 to 6 frames per second of each other. And like I said, depending on the game, depending on the overclock, depending on the card, because I have 4 1070s. 2 of my 1070s are very good performers. One of my 1070s is really not good, and one of mine is just okay. So both of my 980 Ti's are good. I mean, this is an EVGI classified. Normally, I can expect a better boost clock than what we're seeing here. But like I said, when I went a little higher, it was not so stable with this game. So yeah, this is actually pretty decent right now. So we're at the very high preset, 60 FPS cap for the frame rate limit, and borderless window. And this is, I would have to agree with, for the 980 Ti, this is probably going to be a better experience. So everyone's mileage is going to vary, though. I'm wondering if some of you guys with your 980 Ti's actually have a solid experience and don't have to go to borderless window and don't have to do a frame rate cap and don't have to go to the very high setting. I'm wondering how differently this game is playing for different people. Now, for context, let's see, where is that save file at? For context, I am using an SSD. It's from SanDisk. It is the Ultra 2, I believe. I'm not using any G-Sync or FreeSync right now. It's just vanilla with, I don't think I'm even using any kind of sync in the options. Yeah, so just straight vanilla on the syncing. It's a BenQ screen. You probably saw that in the previews. Oh, the motion blur. Let me ditch the motion blur. Not a fan of that. I'm using Windows 10. I don't think I'm using the Creators Edition. I sure didn't sign up for that, I'll tell you that. Latest driver from NVIDIA. I actually did a clean uninstall of all my drivers and then reinstalled them for this game because it was playing so badly with the 980 Ti. See, sometimes when I switch between Maxwell and Pascal, I have that problem. And even if you go to GeForce Experience, it says, no, your driver's current. But sure enough, if you completely clean out your drivers and then reinstall them, specifically with 900 series drivers or 10 series drivers, whichever respective driver you're supposed to be using, well, at that point, the games usually play better. So this is a better experience right here. using. Oh, I was trying not to hit people, and yet there we are. Anyway, this is a better experience in the borderless window at the very high preset, although I have just turned off motion blur. This is better than how it started, but it's still not great. Now, if you go watch my GTX 1070 videos, the game's pretty baller with the GTX 1070 for me. And if it's stuttering and everything, then you're still probably, if it stutters for you, then you'll probably still, even with a 1070, you're going to have to go borderless window, 60 FPS frame rate limit, and then very high preset. And yeah, this is not too bad. If you've got a 980 Ti and you want to play at 1450p, you're probably going to have to go this route. However, let's say you step up to a 1080 Ti, definitely go check my settings out, because with Pascal, this game is so much sharper, so much cleaner. It just plays a lot better on Pascal. And then so the question is, why? Okay, hear me out. Did Ubisoft, was their target the Pascal architecture? And it's, there's nothing against the 980 Ti. They just made the Pascal architecture their target, and for how Pascal works. I believe Maxwell has more compute units at lower clock speeds, and Pascal has fewer compute units but higher clock speed. So for sake of argument, the question becomes, did Ubisoft target Pascal organically? There's nothing shady or sinister going on. Or is NVIDIA, are they prioritizing driver support by the newer cards? They're making darn sure that the newer cards have better driver support, and maybe they haven't put the same amount of effort into the Maxwell driver support. Or, final question, is NVIDIA being shifty? Is NVIDIA doing planned obsolescence? Because people have said that before. When the GTX 970 came out, the GTX 970, it didn't take long before it was beating a lot of older NVIDIA cards that people felt like it should not have been beating, to the extent that it was. So then people started wondering, well, is it planned obsolescence on NVIDIA's part? I don't know. My point is this. The 980 Ti plays a little bit rough for me when I play this game. I pretty much have to do borderless window and very high preset to make it a reasonably smooth experience. What are you doing, buddy? Come on. Come on. There you go. So, I don't know what to tell you guys. If the game's playing incredibly... Really? Maybe I didn't wait to make sure he was lined up. Anyway. I'm beating a dead horse, as usual, but if the game is just giving you all kinds of problems, try borderless window, try 60 frames per second limit, try very high preset. But if the game plays fine for you, tell me how it plays for you at the 980 Ti. I've got 3 videos showing how it plays with 3 different 1070s, 2 different i7s. No. What processors are used? i5, i7. So 2 different i5s and 1 i7 paired with 3 1070s. And then I've got 1 i7 with 1 1080 Ti so far. So this is my 5th 1440p performance demonstration. We're using a 4790 i7, 16 gigabytes of DDR3 RAM. Again, we're using the SSD, Windows 10. These are all things I would normally put into the description of the video. But yeah, no, this is reasonable. If I had to play the game this way, I could do it, and I could enjoy it, and it could still look good, and I could still have fun. But I'm telling you, the 1070 and the 1080 Ti, the colors are more vibrant, everything's sharper, the contrast is better. It's honestly a better image with my Pascal cards. Am I really stuck? Dude, I'm really stuck. I could fast travel out, but we'll just end the video. We'll end the video with me stuck in the rocks. Hopefully this video has been helpful. Hit me up in the comments if you have any questions. Try to be respectful. I've already spent, last night it was 33 hours, plus I've been testing again today. So 33 hours plus wherever we're at today, I'm probably up to 35, 36 hours of testing. I've tested the 1080, the 1080 Ti, 4 different 1070s. I've shown 3 in videos, but I've tested with 4. Losing track. And then this 980 Ti here, and then 4 different CPUs, yada, yada, yada. You can check out the other videos, see how it looks, what you think of it there. But, you know, I try to be honest with you guys, and I try to be helpful, and I'm trying to help people in the PC gaming community have a realistic idea of how hardware and games perform. I feel like a lot of the typical benchmark videos where someone just has the frame rate number on the screen, I don't feel like that's enough. And even if they have the Afterburner overlay, that's what's in the upper right hand corner there, up against that house, all those green numbers, that's the Afterburner overlay. Even if they have that, that's useful, like I think it should be there. But I still feel like a lot of the videos don't do enough to help people understand what you can really expect. And furthermore, everyone's different. Everyone's experience is going to be different. And I think that's incredibly important for us to talk about and understand and discuss. Because a lot of times you'll have a guy say, well, I tested it on a couple machines, you know, at my house, and that's how it plays for me, so that's how it's going to play for everyone. And that's not true. It's not how it plays for everyone. On the 1070, it plays almost perfectly for me. There's a little bit of stuttering, most likely when the game autosaves on the 1070. But other people with the 1070 and even the 1080 Ti, it's not playing perfectly for them at all. And then on this 980 Ti here, I've had mixed results. Actually, let me go ahead and show you that it is indeed a 980 Ti, and then we'll end the video. So communicate with me, guys. Let me know how the game is playing for you in the comments. So this is why does it now say 4790? It's a 4790, I promise. It says 6700K. Fine. We'll use CPU-Z if we have to. It's a 4790. It's not overclocked at all. I mean, there's no point even showing hardware monitor, really. All right. It's a 4790. It only goes up to 4 gigahertz. It's a non-K. It's non-overclockable. It does not go above 4 gigahertz, which is kind of useful information for you to know that I'm recording with Shadowplay on a non-overclocked 2 generations ago i7. This is a Haswell. Since then, Skylake came out, and then Kaby Lake came out. So it's a Haswell. It's not overclocked. There it is, plain as day. It's a 4790. And then we're using a 980 Ti. And we got decent performance just now. No matter what in this video, I think it's been acceptable-ish. In the beginning, it was a little too jittery for me. But overall, the point is the game can be played more or less at 1440p, 60 FPS. You're just going to have to tinker with it. Hopefully this video has helped you guys. Normally, what gets me excited is when I can make a video and I'm like, here it is. Here's how to make the game beautiful and smooth and wonderful. Like when The Witcher 3 came out, I made GTX 960 videos where I made that game look beautiful at a locked 1080p 60 FPS. In Novigrad, it would go below 60 FPS a little bit, but it was pretty good. 1080p 60 FPS with a GTX 960. And I showed the settings to do that. And those videos have over 100,000 views. Maybe even 200,000 views when you add up all of my Witcher 3 GTX 960 videos. My channel has 3.5 million views. Like, I know it may not seem like it if you look at my recent videos and you look at those view counts, but my channel's got a good amount of views. Now, the point of that is, though, when I can say, hey, here's the game, playing smoothly, playing beautifully, I did it, I cracked it, here you go. I feel good about that. With the 980 Ti playing this game at 1440p, I can't fully, like kick in the door and say, "Hey, the game's awesome," but it's playable. It's doable. It's good. I could play it like this in the borderless window mode. Without the borderless window mode trick, I would have to tinker with it some more and really try to get into the nuts and bolts of why it's not playing as well as the 1070 does. And I know some people are like, well, because stupid, the 1070 was faster than a Titan X Maxwell, and that's faster than a 980 Ti. And I'm telling you, though, I saw with my own eyes in some games, my 980 Ti's traded blows with my 1070s. Granted, that happened with some of my slower 1070s that did not overclock very well. But not everybody has a great 1070 either, for that matter. And my bad 1070 still did a good job for the game Ghost Recon Wildlands. My bad 1070 plays it better than my 980 Ti's. So it's I don't know, there's a lot to digest in this video. But still, hopefully it's a useful one for you. Let me know how the game plays for you. Let me know what settings that you guys have been using. It seems like some people have just been settling for 30 frames per second with their 980 Ti's and playing at ultra, but I think the very high preset in borderless window mode might be a better option. You've got a 60 FPS frame rate more or less. I just think it's better that way as far as like the overall compromise, the overall package of how good does it look versus how does it feel. I think going borderless window. Now, what I'm saying about borderless window in this video is the exact opposite of what I said about borderless window in my GTX 1070 video, because my personal 1070s on my personal systems have played the game with no stuttering for the most part. It does stutter. I can't say no stuttering, but not badly. Last night, guys, my 980 Ti, I wish I would have made a video of it. And I don't know why it's playing so well today. But last night, if I did not do borderless window, my 980 Ti was a train fire. It was going from 30 to 50 to 30 to 50 to 30 to 60 to, it was just all over the place. It was hitching, it was hanging, it was freezing. Now, arguably, maybe because I've dialed my overclock down. You can see my afterburner right here. I did dial the overclock down since then, and maybe my overclock was disagreeing with the game last night, and maybe since I've massaged the overclock, that has had an influence on it. I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't know. Last night it was a train fire. Today it was okay. But in both instances, going borderless window, 60 FPS cap, very high preset, was ultimately the compromise that seemed to feel the best out of everything I'd experienced so far. Now, what I'm willing to do is try this game with the 980 Ti some more and make a follow-up video if I crack it and I get it to like look good and play good and not have to go borderless window, but I'm not confident that I'll succeed in that task. If I was a betting man, I would bet that borderless window, very high preset, 60 FPS cap for the frame rate limit. If I was a betting man, I'd say that's probably as good as it's going to get for 980 Ti owners. But if I'm wrong, I'll come back with a follow-up video. Anyway, listen, guys. PC gaming is different for all of us. I've shared with you how the game's been working on hardware that I'm using. I do use more hardware than the typical person would, and I even, it's my belief that I spend more time testing specific games at specific resolutions than most pro YouTubers do. I don't think Jay's 2 cents cares really how Ghost Recon Wildlands plays for you at 60 FPS with the 980 Ti. I don't think he puts 36 hours into testing the game to figure that out, right? That's not a knock on him. He's got other things to do. He's got to go to the EVGA headquarters and hang out with them and hang out with Fractal Josh and all that. He's got to go do those things. So, point being that I do use a lot of different hardware and I do spend a lot of time, so I'm pretty confident in what I share with you, and I show you concrete video evidence. I show you proof of what I'm seeing. I show you the recordings with all my data. But it could still play differently for you. Alright, Arkham Knight won't play for me on any of this hardware. On any of it, guys. I have so much hardware, and Arkham Knight will not play for me. It plays like garbage. I can kind of play it at 1080p. But you know what? I don't want to. When you've got a 1080 Ti, when you've got a 1070, when you've got a 980 Ti, you don't want to settle for 1080p. So I can kind of play Arkham Knight at 1080p. But once I get a good frame rate at 1440p, I get over 100 frames per second at 1440p, but it rubber bands and the frame rate jumps down to 30 FPS. And, you know, maybe some borderless window fix or something like that is going to solve the problem. I don't know, but until then, I'm just saying, I want games to play well for you. I want them to play well for me. I want them to play well for everybody. Even though the game plays a certain way for me, it may play differently for you. But I want it to play well for you. I want that to be the final goal that we reach, is the game plays well for you. So hit me up in the comments, guys, and let me know, do you want to start talking on Facebook? I feel like we need to talk somewhere besides the YouTube comments. I feel like we need to gather ourselves somewhere, because I'm comparing 4 different CPUs, 5 different graphics cards now in these videos just on Ghost Recon Wildlands, and then I'm going to start trying with the GTX 1060, and I still have 1080 testing to do, although the 1080 testing is kind of obsolete in my opinion, because the game, I've shown it with a 1070 and a 1080 Ti, meaning the 1080s in between, but 1080 owners are probably only going to Google or search or whatever 1080, and so I almost have to make a 1080 video for them, which would be 6 graphics cards, and then the 1060 would be 7 graphics cards. So now that I'm talking about how the game performs at this resolution across all this different hardware, I feel like maybe we need a forum to talk in or something. I don't know if I should start a forum. Let me know if you think I should start a forum. I might. Or we could use Facebook. But the goal is, the job that I have before me is to show you how games honestly play with real hardware and real circumstances, and then help you get the game to play well for you. All right, that's my job, and I'm trying to do that. So let me know where you want to talk. We can just talk in these comments if you want to, if that's easier for everybody. But there's going to be some note comparing to do between different pieces of hardware, and maybe a Facebook page or something like that could help. I don't know. I don't use Facebook. I'm asking you guys. Or maybe I need a forum. All right. Anyway, I hope this video has been absolutely helpful for you. I hope this video has helped you play the game better and more smoothly, and maybe more in a more pretty fashion. But no matter what, I hope you've enjoyed the game more as a result of something that you learned in this video. All right. So thanks for watching, guys. I love you very much. I do appreciate you. This has been AI Gaming 1776. Have a good one.